The mystery of unexplainable favor. God's chosen one. Listen carefully. You did not arrive here by chance. The invisible threads of eternity were intertwined so that, precisely at this moment, you would be standing before this word. Nothing in heaven moves without purpose. Nothing you have experienced was in vain. Every tear, every silence, every rejection, every door that closed before you was written as part of a divine process. And now the Spirit whispers something the world does not understand. There is an unexplainable favor surrounding your life, and you are about to experience doors opening without human effort. You have felt the weight of the journey. You know what it's like to strive, to fight, to insist, to try to control everything. But heaven is announcing that the time has come to experience something different. It will not be by the sweat of your own strength, nor by the manipulation of your hands. It will not be by the acceptance of men. It will be by God's invisible favor that doors that would never have moved will open before you. God's favor cannot be explained by logic. It doesn't rely on resumes, human connections, or earthly justifications. Favor is a mark of heaven. It is the seal of the eternal upon those he calls his own. And you, God's chosen one, bear this seal. Perhaps you haven't yet seen it manifest in its fullness, but that's why you are here today, to receive revelation that the season of unexplained favor has arrived. Think about your own story. How many times have you been rejected? How many times have you been forgotten? How many times have you been set aside, as if your presence were worthless? But look at what God was doing. While the world ignored you, He was writing secret pages of your life that will now be read aloud before everyone. Unexplained favor doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't need justification. It simply manifests itself. You need to understand that there is a difference between human effort and divine favor. Human effort tires. It consumes. It frustrates. You try to open doors with your own hands, but they often remain closed. Divine favor, however, is different. It doesn't depend on your strength. It doesn't depend on how much you shout or how much you prove your worth. Divine favor is like the wind, invisible, yet irresistible. No one can hold it. No one can stop it. No one can explain it. The Spirit of the Lord shows me that you, God's chosen one, are entering a season where doors that previously required keys, passwords, and connections will simply open before you. And when that happens, those who tried to block you will be silent. They won't understand. They will wonder, how did he get there? How was she invited to that place? How did she get this opportunity effortlessly, without explanation? And you will know, it wasn't me, it was God's favor. There is a mystery in favor. It doesn't follow human rules. It doesn't respect statistics. It doesn't bow to logic. Favor takes someone who had no resources, no support, no influence, and places them in places even the prepared cannot reach. This is grace multiplied. This is God showing the world that when He decides to lift someone up, no one can put them down. God's chosen one, you were prepared for this. Perhaps you felt like you were always one step behind, as if recognition never came, as if doors were always locked. But listen, the season of closed doors is over. Now heaven stands before you like a gatekeeper opening the way. You won't need to beg. You won't need to negotiate. You won't need to humble yourself before men. Your only task will be to remain faithful, walk in obedience, and let favor do what your strength could never do. Inexplicable favor is not something you earn. It is something you receive. It is an inheritance. It is a gift from the Father, not because you are perfect, but because you are chosen. Not because you never failed, but because you were set apart from the womb. Not because you always had the right answers, but because you decided to remain even when everything screamed for you to give up. I see a new atmosphere about you. It is as if a veil has been torn away. Doors that were once made of iron are becoming light wood. Keys you never had are now being placed in your hands. And most shockingly, many of these doors will open on their own simply because you approached them. This will not be the result of your strength, but a sign of inexplicable favor. You've been misunderstood, unfairly accused, rejected for not fitting in. But the difference that isolated you will be the same difference that will set you apart. Heaven is saying, I myself will open the doors for my chosen one. And when they open, no one will be able to close them. Understand this. It doesn't matter who tried to lock them. It doesn't matter who tried to stop you, no matter who declared you would not have access. When God decides to release favor, no human decree can resist. What was inaccessible becomes attainable. What was impossible becomes natural. What seemed distant draws near. Chosen by God, inexplicable favor is not just about external opportunities. It is also about internal transformation. It is about you beginning to see yourself the way heaven has always seen you. It is about standing up and walking with the confidence of one who knows. I carry something that does not depend on the opinion of men. I am marked by the favor of the Most High. Today, you are called to live this new season. A season in which your effort will not be the basis, but grace. A season in which doors will not be opened by pushes, but by the gentle breath of the Spirit. A season in which you will not have to justify yourself, because God Himself will be your justification. And I declare to you in the name of the Lord, from this day forward you will walk in places you never imagined, because inexplicable favor is written upon your life. No human effort can explain what God is about to do. No logic can translate it. It will be visible, it will be notorious, it will be indisputable. You, God's chosen one, are sealed with inexplicable favor. Doors will open before you effortlessly, and everyone will see that it was not the work of your hand, but of God, who chose you before the foundation of the world. The silence before the favor. Before the break of dawn, there is always a deep night. Before the sound of the trumpet of victory, there is the heavy silence of the hours when it seems God is not speaking. This silence is not absence, it is preparation. Chosen of God, you have felt this silence. Days when you prayed and heard no answer. Nights when you cried out and it seemed the heavens were bronze. Moments when everything within you screamed for intervention, and yet the only answer you received was the echo of your own voice. But the Spirit of the Lord reveals that this silence was not empty. It was fertile. While you thought nothing was happening, heaven was arranging invisible scenarios. Doors were being forged, keys were being shaped, and paths you never imagined were being paved. God's silence is never negligence. It's the interval between seed and harvest, between promise and manifestation. See how the potter works. He doesn't talk to the clay every second, but molds in silence. He presses, turns the wheel, and the vessel begins to take shape. So it is with you. The silence you faced wasn't rejection, it was molding. You were being prepared to carry a favor that couldn't be supported by fragile structures. God needed to strengthen you in silence so that, when the door opened, you would be firm enough to pass through. This silence is similar to the womb of the earth. The seed, once sown, disappears. To those looking from the outside, it thinks it's dead. But within the darkness, it is breaking through, germinating, multiplying. God's silence is this womb where He allows the invisible to become inevitable. That which seemed dead was, in fact, generating life. Many confuse silence with abandonment. But you, God's chosen one, need to understand that the absence of noise is not the absence of presence. The Father was with you in the moments when He seemed distant. He watched you, supported you, taught you to trust beyond what your senses perceive. The favor that is coming is not small, and that is why preparation required silence. It is in silence that we learn to discern the voice of the Spirit without distractions. It is in silence that faith ceases to be theory and becomes practice. It is in silence that you discovered that you could no longer depend on the hands of men, on earthly promises, on visible connections. It was in silence that you realized, if God doesn't open, no one will open. If God doesn't sustain, everything falls. If God doesn't speak, no word is enough. You were trained in silence so that you wouldn't get lost in the noise of favor. Because when the doors begin to open effortlessly, many will surround you, trying to associate themselves with what God will do. Many will try to explain, steal the glory, claim merit. But you will know, because silence has taught you. It was not human work, it was divine hand. Note how nature teaches. Before each dawn, there is a moment when the darkness is deepest. Before the rain, the sky is silent, heavy, motionless. Before birth, the uterus contracts silently. Before the favor, silence sets in. This silence was the hidden announcement that the favor was coming. On the way. Chosen by God, this silence was proof of trust. It was the Father secretly asking your heart, do you trust me even when you don't understand? Do you worship me even when you don't feel? Do you continue to believe even when you don't see? And you, even with tears, responded with your perseverance. Yes, Lord. This silent response was the greatest testimony of your faith. And now, because you remained, heaven is about to break the silence with the sound of doors opening. The same God who seemed silent is the one who will now rise to speak publicly on your behalf. He will not only open the doors, he will make sure everyone knows that it was he who opened them. Silence was the womb of your next season. It was necessary, painful, uncomfortable, but in it you were born to carry the weight of the glory that is coming. You are not emerging from empty silence, but from fertile silence, and what is being born now is great. It is inexplicable. It is pure favor. I declare that the silence you faced was not abandonment, but preparation. Now, this silence transforms into the sound of victory. Unexplained favor is breaking through the darkness, and doors begin to open before you effortlessly. When God exposes the hidden and calls you to the center, God's chosen one, you walked long corridors of shadows, where it seemed your voice was muffled, where your worth was ignored, where doors remained locked before your eyes. Many didn't even realize how much you carried within. They tried to hide your light, minimize your essence, bury your gifts. But what belongs to heaven can never be buried forever. What God plants cannot be erased by the silence of men, nor suffocated by the enemy's strategies. This chapter is a spiritual clarion call that echoes in your heart. What was hidden will be revealed. Not just revealed, but exposed with glory. God doesn't just prepare you in silence. He also calls you to the center, before everyone's eyes, at the exact time. Perceive the divine logic. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into the pit, forgotten in prison. But at the appointed time, he was called before Pharaoh. David was ignored by his father, forgotten by his brothers, left out of the anointing banquet. But at the appointed time, Samuel called him and poured oil on his head in front of everyone. Esther lived hidden as an orphan, but in an instant she was brought to the center of the palace to become queen and intercessor of a nation. So too you. There was a time of hiding. There was a time when it seemed your life was backstage, behind the curtain, far from the stage. But this was the place where God polished you, away from human eyes, so that your brilliance would not be mistaken for vanity. Now, however, the Father decides to call you to the center, not because you sought the spotlight, but because he determined that your light should illuminate others. What was hidden within you, gifts, talents, wisdom, grace, anointing, resilience, faith, will now be brought to light. Not by human effort, but because heaven decreed. The hour has come for my chosen one to be seen. What many ignored will now be impossible to hide. Like a city set on a hill, you will be seen. Like a lamp burning on a table, you will illuminate. And here is the secret. God exposes not to humiliate, but to exalt. He exposes not to shame, but to confirm. He calls you to the center, not to entertain you, but to use you as a living testimony that his favor is real. Elect, you will be surprised by doors that open before you without logical explanation. Invitations that didn't come through human networking. Opportunities born not from resumes or connections, but from divine intervention. These will be moments when you'll look back and say, this can't be the work of man. God brought me here. The people who tried to erase you will see God place you in a position of honor. Those who mocked your silence will see the reason for that silence turn into revelation. Those who said you were forgotten will have to testify that, in fact, you were being prepared. God doesn't just open doors. He ensures that the right doors open to the right people at the right time. What is coming to you cannot be explained in reports, cannot be accounted for by statistics, cannot be reduced to human calculations. It is an unexplained favor. It is the sovereign hand of God placing you in places you could never have been on your own. The hidden will be revealed. The invisible will become visible. What seemed insignificant will become indispensable. Shabal. And all this will be done so clearly that no one will be able to deny it. It was God who did it. Elect, your story is about to become public. Not because you sought fame, but because the purpose demands that your life become a testimony. You will be used to show the world that divine favor opens doors that no one closes, and closes doors that no one opens. This is the time when God calls you to the center, no longer behind the scenes, no longer on the sidelines, no longer in silence. Now he says, "Come forward, my son, my daughter. What I prepared in secret, I now reveal in public. What I conceived in secret, I now manifest in the sight of all. I declare that the time of concealment is over. You, God's chosen one, will be called to the center. What was hidden within you will be revealed with glory, and doors will open effortlessly. Divine favor will place you in places of honor, and all will see that it was the hand of the Lord that raised you. God's chosen one. There is something heaven is about to place on your shoulders that is not just a gift, but a responsibility. God's favor is not superficial lightness, not just applause or honor. True favor carries weight, a weight of glory, a weight of responsibility, a weight of purpose. And it is precisely this weight that marks God's chosen ones. They are not given open doors to show off, but to fulfill a destiny greater than themselves. When doors open before you without human effort, your heart must be prepared to bear the weight of this new season. Because with favor comes watching eyes, people being inspired, and spiritual responsibilities. The favor that cannot be explained will also be the sign that your life no longer belongs solely to you, but becomes a living testimony to God's faithfulness. The weight of inexplicable favor is not something you earned through human strategies. It didn't come because you were the strongest, the most influential, or the most recognized. The weight comes precisely because you were found faithful in what no one saw. In the silence of your prayer, in your hidden weeping, in the patience to wait when everyone mocked, in the heart that didn't give up even when there seemed no way out. It is this kind of hidden faithfulness that attracts public favor. And what is most powerful? This favor manifests itself in ways the world cannot comprehend. While some spend years trying to build shortcuts, you will see doors open before you effortlessly. While some wear themselves out manipulating human alliances, you will see divine alliances being placed in your hands without you lifting a finger. This is what causes bewilderment in those who observe. There will be no rational explanation. It will be the kind of favor that silences critics, disarms the envious, and thwarts the plans of adversaries. But with it comes weight. The weight of bearing the mark of election. The weight of not being able to live as everyone else does. The weight of knowing that every open door is not just a privilege, but a mission. You will not be placed in high places to enjoy alone, but to be an instrument of transformation. Unexplained favor is not meant to inflate the ego, but to amplify the impact. Remember Joseph. When he was called from prison and placed as governor of Egypt, it wasn't just an honor. It was a weight. He carried on his shoulders the responsibility of saving an entire nation from famine. David, when he was anointed king, didn't just receive a throne. He received weight. The weight of leading a chosen people, of fighting battles that demanded courage, of being an example of devotion amid adversity. Esther, when she was chosen queen, didn't just receive crowns and royal gowns. She received weight. The weight of interceding for his people before the decree of death. So too, you, God's chosen one. When the doors open effortlessly, don't be surprised if along with them comes a calling greater than you had imagined. Divine favor cannot be explained because it is not limited to your personal desire. It connects to God's eternal plan. The weight of inexplicable favor is also the seal of your identity. It proves that you are not living by chance, but that there is a mark on your life that sets you apart. This difference has often been a source of pain, rejection, and misunderstanding. But now it will become the proof of your election. The weight that once seemed only a struggle will become a credential before men. Elect one, do not be afraid of the weight. It does not come to crush you, but to strengthen you. It does not come to limit you, but to expand you. This weight is glory, it is presence, it is purpose. This weight is God's signature saying, I trust you. And if he trusts, who will dare question? Doors will open before you and you will realize you have no way to explain. invitations that are unjustified, recognitions that make no sense, help that comes from where you least expect it, support that appears at the exact moment. Unexplainable favor carries this mystery. When everyone asks how, you can only answer, "It was God." And that is precisely what carries weight. You will be a living testimony. Every open door will not speak of you, but of the one who raised you. Every victory will not echo your name, but the name of the Lord who elected you. Every recognition will be an opportunity to glorify God. God's chosen one, take a deep breath. The weight you feel is not punishment, it is confirmation. It is not a human burden, it is a weight of heavenly glory. It is heaven saying, "You are ready to carry what I have prepared for you." I declare that the Lord's inexplicable favor rests upon you. The weight that arrives is not to destroy you, but to strengthen you. You, God's chosen one, will carry open doors as signs of purpose, and each step will be a testament to the Lord's glory. When heaven fights for you, God's chosen one, there are battles you've never had to fight with your own hands. There are wars you've never seen, but which were fought behind the scenes in the spiritual world on your behalf. While you slept, heaven raised swords. While you wept, the Lord sent angels. While you felt alone, the Almighty raised heavenly armies to open paths that seemed impossible. This inexplicable favor is the fruit of an invisible reality. Heaven fights for you. Perhaps you wonder, but why did doors open for me when everything said there was no way out? It's because there was a silent army, tearing down walls, breaking chains, confusing enemy plans, dismantling traps. Think of Israel before the Red Sea. The people were trapped. In front, impassable waters. Behind, Pharaoh's army. They had no weapons, no strategy, no strength. But heaven fought for them. The sea parted, and the same path that was liberation for God's children became judgment for their enemies. So too in your story. How many times have you faced closed seas, situations with no way out, diagnoses that were seals of doom, and suddenly a door opened? You can't explain how. You can't say where the solution came from. You only know that something happened and that you were sustained. That something was the hand of the Lord fighting on your behalf. David knew what it was like to face giants he couldn't humanly defeat. But when he lifted the stone against Goliath, it wasn't just his aim that felled the enemy. It was heaven fighting for him. Daniel knew what it was like to be thrown into the lion's den, but the lions' mouths weren't closed by chance. It was heaven fighting for him. Peter knew what it was like to be trapped between soldiers and chains. But in the early morning, an angel freed him from prison. It was heaven fighting for him. Chosen by God, this same reality applies to you. There are traps that were dismantled without you even knowing they existed. There are attacks that were thwarted before they reached you. There are words of curse that were nullified by the power of the blood of the Lamb. You only saw the open door, but not the chains that fell behind it. You only perceived the solution, but did not witness the spiritual battlefield where God had already decreed your victory. This is inexplicable favor, because while many believe you won by your strength, you know it was heaven that fought. While others say it was luck, you know it was divine intervention. While some try to understand the reasons, you simply testify, it was not by power, it was not by effort, it was by the Spirit of the Lord. And herein lies the beauty of this truth. You do not have to wear yourself out in every battle. Heaven fights for you in areas where you are incapable of fighting. There are wars that are not yours, but God's. There are enemies who are not facing just you, but the Lord who elected you. And when they rise up, they are not rising against you, but against the anointed of the Most High. This changes everything, because it means you do not walk alone. No matter how many voices rise against you, how many obstacles try to stand in your way, how many doors seem locked, heaven is the one who guarantees victory. That's why doors open effortlessly. That's why favor cannot be explained. Because it doesn't depend on your performance, it depends on divine intervention. Elect, rest. There are battles that are not for you to wear yourself out, they are for you to trust. There are battles that are not won with the sword, but with faith. There are doors that cannot be opened with a key, but with prayer. There are miracles that cannot be explained, only witnessed. Heaven fights for you. And when heaven fights, there is no defeat. When heaven fights, no chains remain. When heaven fights, no prison can resist. When heaven fights, no door remains closed. You are God's chosen one, and for this reason, your life is surrounded by invisible battles that have already been won before you even enter them. This inexplicable favor is only the visible manifestation of wars that have already had their outcome decreed by the Almighty. I declare over your life, God's chosen one. Heaven fights for you. No forged weapon will prosper. No door will remain closed. No enemy plan will prevail. Because where men say there is no way out, the Lord opens a way. Where men close doors, the Lord creates new entrances. Your victory has already been decreed because it is heaven that fights for you. The recognition. You didn't seek chosen by God. There is a glory that is not born of human effort, but of silent faithfulness before heaven. There is a recognition that is not the fruit of self-promotion, but of the grace that rests upon you. And perhaps this is one of the greatest marks of inexplicable favor. You didn't need to show off. You didn't need to justify yourself. You didn't need to shout to be heard. God himself raised his voice when no one wanted to hear yours. Think of Joseph, son of Jacob. He didn't ask to dream, but he dreamed. He didn't ask to be thrown into a cistern, but he was. He didn't want to be sold into slavery, but he was. He didn't want to be unjustly accused, but he was accused. He didn't want to be forgotten in prison, but he was forgotten. And yet, from within the darkness of the dungeon, heaven remembered him. And at the appointed time, in a single day, the forgotten was remembered. The prisoner was called. The anonymous became governor. Joseph didn't seek recognition. He didn't seek the throne. He simply remained faithful in the few things. And heaven took care to exalt the man no one valued. The same is true for you, God's chosen one. Perhaps you felt ignored, overlooked, invisible to others. Perhaps you saw others applauded, remembered, promoted, while your faithfulness seemed hidden. But listen to this truth. Heaven saw every act of faithfulness. It saw the times you served unnoticed. It saw the moments you sowed in silence, expecting nothing in return. It saw the tears no one acknowledged, the prayers no one heard, the perseverance no one celebrated. And that is why God's favor is about to be publicly manifested in your life. The recognition you didn't seek will be delivered into your hands. Doors will open not because you promoted yourself, but because God decided to exalt you. Psalm says, "For exaltation cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the desert. But God is the judge. He putteth down one, and exalteth another." This recognition will not be shallow, it will not be human, it will not be temporary. It will be eternal, solid, and indisputable, because it will be the fruit of the hand of the Lord. See, when you don't chase recognition, but seek only to please God, heaven prepares a table in the presence of your enemies. He anoints your head with oil. He overflows your cup. He makes a point of showing that his chosen one has not been forgotten. This is inexplicable favor. When doors open effortlessly, when invitations arrive without you asking, when your name appears in places you never imagined, when people who never believed in you will be forced to recognize that the hand of the Lord was upon your life from the beginning. And it will not be to satisfy your ego. It will not be to prove something to anyone. It will be for everyone to see and say, "It could only have been God." The recognition will not be about you. It will be about the glory of God manifested in you. Elect, do not seek applause. It is empty and fleeting. Don't seek stages, they fade with time. Don't seek the validation of the crowds. It vanishes with the wind. Seek only the heart of the Father, and he himself will open paths, give you visibility, and exalt your life before those who once doubted. And when recognition comes, remember, it didn't come because you sought it, but because you remained faithful. It didn't come because you demanded it, but because you waited. It didn't come because you cried out, but because you trusted. The recognition you didn't seek is heaven's signature saying, "This is my chosen one. With him I am pleased." I declare over your life, God's chosen one. The recognition you didn't seek is on its way. You will be remembered. Your work will be seen. Your faithfulness will be rewarded. Doors will open before you effortlessly because God Himself has chosen to exalt you. You don't chase honor. God's honor will chase you. Your name is the favor that disarms enemies. Have you ever noticed, God's chosen one, that there are times when war makes no sense? You fight, you take a stand, you pray, you fast, and yet it seems the enemy comes from all sides. The attack is not small, it is coordinated. People you never imagined rise up. Situations you didn't expect occur. It's as if a siege has formed around your life. But listen, the siege is not a sign of defeat. The siege is the stage for God's favor. Because favor is not just a pretty word. Favor is an atmosphere that surrounds you and confounds your enemies. It is a table spread before them, as David declared in Psalm 23. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You, God's chosen one, don't need to fight, don't need to prove anything, don't need to waste energy trying to justify your integrity. Favor speaks for you, and favor has this characteristic. It is disarming. People who were plotting your downfall are suddenly forced to acknowledge that you are standing. Tongues that wanted to slander suddenly fall silent because grace covers you like an invisible cloak. Favor is what reverses situations. Those who desired your downfall will have to watch your promotion. Understand this. Favor is not deserved. It is not the result of manipulation, nor of human strategy. It comes from above. It is God's signature on your life, the prophetic mark that no one can erase. It is not your strength that wins. It is favor. It is not your argument that convinces. It is favor. It is not your influence that opens doors. It is favor. And see how favor works. It exposes the fragility of your enemies. They plot against you, but their very plans become traps for themselves. They try to level accusations, but end up revealing their own dark intentions. They seek to defame, but the truth within you becomes a light so strong it blinds and silences. You may not see it now, but favor is already at work. Enemies may still speak, still move, still make alliances, but they have already lost. Because when favor rests upon one of God's chosen ones, every strategy against them becomes futile. Favor is the invisible shield, the protective net, the divine covering that transforms battles into testimonies. Remember, Joseph didn't have to fight his brothers. He didn't have to fight for recognition. Favor took him from prison to the palace. Daniel didn't have to beg not to be thrown into the den. Favor accompanied him there and closed the lions' mouths. Esther didn't have to manipulate the king. Favor made her find favor with him, changing the destiny of a nation. So it is with you. Favor doesn't just open doors, it sustains you within them. Favor doesn't just silence your enemies, it forces them to recognize that there's something different about you. So, right now, take a deep breath and receive this prophetic word. God's favor is surrounding you now. He's entering environments where your name has been spoken. He's repositioning the narrative. He's transforming accusations into opportunities, attacks into platforms of visibility, wars into paths of victory. You, God's chosen one, need not fear what others plan. You don't need to carry the burden of proving your innocence. Heaven has already decreed. Favor is your defense. Favor is your answer. Favor is your secret weapon. And what's more, when God's favor rests upon you, even those who dislike you will be used to open doors. Even those who tried to get in your way will end up contributing, unwittingly, to the acceleration of your destiny. Because favor doesn't depend on the will of men, it depends on the will of the eternal. Therefore, lift your head. The siege is breaking. Favor is disarming your enemies. The table is being prepared. You are about to experience the prophetic scene David experienced, sitting down to feast while your enemies watch, unable to touch you. Receive this truth. You will not be defeated by what they say, what they plot, or what they attempt against you. Favor has already decreed your victory. Final statement of this chapter. God's favor is the shield that disarms enemies. It is the table that honors me before them, and it is the eternal mark that confirms, I am chosen by the Lord. Doors that open effortlessly. You know, chosen by DU, who often experienced the frustration of trying to force open doors. You pushed, knocked, insisted. You prayed, fasted, prepared, but nothing seemed to happen. The doors remained closed. It was as if heaven had fallen silent over you, and in that silence, doubt cried out, "Am I not worthy? Have I gone astray? Have I not been called?" But today I prophetically declare that time is over, because now the Spirit of the Lord is leading you to a level where doors will not open by your efforts, but by inexplicable favor. You will see doors that should remain closed open before you. It will not be by human contacts. It will not be by political influence. It will not be by human strategies. It will be by the invisible hand of the Almighty. Look at the biblical story and see how God has always worked this way. Joseph didn't need to ask for an audience in the palace. A word from Pharaoh, moved by revelation, opened the door supernaturally. Daniel didn't need to beg for recognition. The king placed him in a position of authority because he saw in him something not human, but divine. Peter was imprisoned, surrounded by soldiers, chained. But when the angel of the Lord appeared, the chains fell, and the iron doors opened by themselves. This is what is about to happen in your life. Iron doors that seemed impossible will open without you having to touch them. These doors don't open for just anyone. They open for God's chosen ones. And you are one of them. That's why you so often felt out of place, misunderstood, rejected. Because there were specific doors waiting for you, and not just any key could unlock them. You had to wait for the right time. You had to endure the silence. You had to trust in the unseen. Now listen, when heaven decides to open doors, nothing can close them. No human decree, no decision of leaders, no opinion of the masses can stop the move of the eternal. You may have been excluded from environments, forgotten in hallways, rejected in interviews, overlooked at decision-making tables. But heaven's decree is above all this, and when God's hand turns the key, not all the armies of the earth can stop what He has established. You will experience Revelation 3:7, where the Lord presents Himself as the one who holds the key of David. What He opens, no one can shut, and what He shuts, no one can open. This is not a distant promise. It is a prophetic reality that is already beginning to manifest. Invisible doors are being unlocked. Unexpected paths are being prepared. And do you know what is most powerful? You will not need to wear yourself out. Your role is to remain faithful, obedient, and in position. Human effort opens limited doors, but divine favor opens eternal doors. There are people who conquer through force and lose quickly. But what you receive through favor will remain forever. God's chosen one. Understand this. It's not about you running faster, but about God accelerating time. It's not about you begging for acceptance, but about heaven decreeing your arrival. It's not about you proving your worth, but about God Himself authenticating your identity. What will come will be so inexplicable that even you will ask yourself, how did this happen? And the only answer will be, it was the Lord. Prepare yourself, because the doors that will open are not small. They are not narrow. They are not ordinary. They carry destiny, purpose, and expansion. They were designed for you even before you were born. While you wept over the doors that closed, heaven was preserving you for the right doors. While you lamented the no's you received, heaven was guarding the definitive yes that will change your story. This supernatural opening will not be limited to one area of your life. God's favor will touch your finances, your health, your relationships, your calling. Doors of honor, doors of influence, doors of provision, doors of reconciliation, doors of spiritual revelation, doors that will not be opened by human techniques, but by the hand of the Almighty. So stop trying to force it. Stop wearing yourself out. Stop carrying the burden of thinking it depends on you. It doesn't. It depends on Him. And He has already decreed, this is the time when you will see doors opening effortlessly. Take hold of this word, because before you, God's chosen one, the doors are already turning. The locks are already moving. The sound of the key is already echoing in the spiritual world. What was locked will be thrown open, and when it opens, no one can close it. Doors that human eyes could not open are thrown open before me, because God's favor precedes me. What He opens, no one can close. I am chosen, and I walk through doors of destiny. The favor that confuses enemies. God's chosen one, there is something you need to understand. Divine favor is not just a gift, it is also a weapon of spiritual warfare. Favor confuses enemies, disarms accusations, and dismantles hidden plans. Many times you didn't understand why you faced so much opposition, why it seemed like eyes were watching your steps, why doors were closed in your face while less prepared people were promoted. This happened because heaven had marked you with a seal, and when someone is marked by God, hell always tries to resist. But now, the season has come when favor will not only lift you up, but will expose the futility of the attacks against you. What they tried to use to harm you, God will transform into a step toward promotion. Those who plotted against you will see, with their own eyes, the Lord opening doors before you, and they won't be able to explain it. There will be no human logic to justify it. They will ask themselves, how did he get here? How did she do this? It wasn't possible. And it will be at that moment that it will become clear. It wasn't human merit, it was God's favor. Consider the life of Esther. She was a foreigner, an orphan, without titles, without social standing. In the eyes of the world, she had no chance. But an inexplicable favor rested upon her. When she entered the king's presence, she found favor with him. And this favor not only gave her access, but saved an entire nation. This is what favor does. It changes destinies, disarms death decrees, rewrites histories. So it will be with you. God's favor will not come just to benefit you individually, but so that through you, others may be reached. Favor doesn't follow statistics. It doesn't respect resumes. He does not bow to human opinions. God's favor is supernatural, and that is what sets you apart. Many may be more academically prepared, more experienced, or more influential, but you carry something they don't, the seal of eternal favor, and this seal is what changes the game. You will be placed in positions you never expected. You will be remembered at tables your name should never have been. You will be called to roles others deemed unattainable. This will not only be a personal achievement, it will be a living testimony. Your life will become a prophetic sign, living proof that God exalts the humble and casts down the proud. And know this, favor doesn't need permission. When God decides to favor you, no one can stop it. They may try to close doors, but they will open from within. They may try to build walls, but God will make you climb over them. They may try to extinguish your light, but the flame the Lord has lit, no one can extinguish. The favor that comes from above is unstoppable, non-negotiable, and unbreakable. Favor also has the power to restore what was lost. Years of rejection, injustice, and contempt will be reversed in days of acceleration. What seemed forgotten will be remembered. Places of shame will become places of honor. What exposed you will be transformed into a showcase of victory. Because God's favor is also a wind of restitution. Many still doubt you, God's chosen one. But the time is coming when they will have no choice but to recognize that there is something different in your life. They may not like you, but they will not deny that the Lord is with you. They may not want to applaud you, but they will have to admit, the favor that rests upon your life is inexplicable. And here's a secret, favor doesn't depend on pleasing everyone. Don't wear yourself out trying to gain human acceptance. God's favor is non-negotiable, non-bought, non-earned. It is sovereignly granted. You simply receive it and walk in it. And as you walk, you will see enemies being confounded, barriers falling, doors opening. Today I prophesy, you will experience the kind of favor that will leave others silent. Favor that silences enemies. Favor that leaves no room for accusations. Favor that transforms your story into such a powerful testimony that even those who doubted will need to recognize. Truly, the Lord is in this chosen one. I am marked by divine favor. What God has released upon me cannot be undone. Enemies will be confounded, accusations will be silenced, and doors will open before me. I walk in the strength of the inexplicable favor of the Most High. The final decree of favor. God's chosen one, see, we have reached the highest point of this prophetic journey. Everything said so far was not just a reflection, but a revelation from the Spirit for your life. You did not arrive at this moment by chance. Heaven scheduled this meeting to remind you that inexplicable favor is already in motion upon you. So far you have learned that it was not failure, it was preparation. It was not punishment, it was a process. It was not rejection, it was preservation. Now understand, God's favor is not something you merely hope for, it is something you already carry. You are marked by eternal favor, and because you are God's chosen, what will come cannot be stopped. The doors that were locked have already opened in the spiritual world. The decrees that harmed you have already been revoked. The chains that bound you have already been broken. Heaven has decreed. This is the time of advancement. This is the time of restitution. This is the time of honor. You will no longer walk in circles, no longer live in frustrated attempts. Favor will open a path before you like a river in the desert, like light in the dead of night, like a key that unlocks impossible chains. And don't think it will be small. No, chosen one of God. The favor that comes upon you will be abundant, visible, undeniable. People will look at you and won't be able to explain it. They will say, "I don't know how it happened, but it did." They will ask themselves, "How did he get there? How did she manage that?" And the only possible answer will be, "It was God. It was the inexplicable favor of the Almighty." Remember, favor not only opens doors, but keeps you within them. Many even manage to enter environments through human strategies, but don't remain. You, however, will remain, because you entered not by your own strength, but by eternal favor. You will not only be remembered, but you will be established. You will not only be promoted, but you will be sustained. Chosen, you were prepared for this time. The tears you shed watered the soil of your promise. The rejections you endured honed your identity. The silence you faced strengthened your faith. Now everything converges on a single point: the manifestation of divine favor that confounds, elevates, and transforms. Receive this proclamation. You will walk through doors that cannot be opened by human effort. You will experience miracles that cannot be explained. You will bear testimonies that cannot be silenced. Favor will precede you in every step, accompany you in every decision, and sustain you in every challenge. And here is the final decree. You will not only experience favor, you will be a channel of it. Others will be blessed because of your life. People will be lifted up because you were lifted up. Families will be restored because you were restored. Nations will be reached because you answered the call. You are not just a beneficiary, you are a bearer. God's favor becomes an inheritance moving through you. Now, listen carefully. Do not return to the place of doubt. Do not allow the voice of fear to erase the revelation you have received. Walk in faith. Walk in certainty. Walk knowing that the key has already been turned and the doors are already open. The inexplicable favor of the Lord goes before me. What was closed opens. What was lost is restored. What was blocked flows. I am God's chosen one, and I walk through doors that heaven has already unlocked. No enemy can resist, no decree can hinder, no obstacle can stand. I live, from now on, in eternal favor. God's chosen one, if this message spoke deeply to your heart, share this video with someone who also needs to hear this revelation. Become an instrument of favor in the lives of others, and continue your spiritual journey by choosing another video that resonates with you now, because there are even more prophetic words waiting for you.